We've got three great people up here, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves and tell you a little about themselves. But first, the reason that I hope you're all here is to learn something about how to pitch yourselves or your products to a variety of different constituencies, whether you're an affiliate trying to work with a merchant or whether you're a merchant trying to get noticed, or whether you're just somebody that has something that you want the press or the media to pick up on. And we're going to give you some tips and tricks and secrets of folks that have been really successful at getting the attention of people by pitching them and telling you what constitutes a really good pitch and how to get your message out there. So first we have Jim Kukral, and then we have Anita Campbell and Peter Shankman, and I'm going to let each of these folks tell you a little bit about themselves, and then we'll get started.
Hi, I'm Jim Kukral, and probably the thing that most people know about me is I own a site called YourPitchSucks.com, and the site has gotten really good promotion. I mean, it's been in Inc. and Entrepreneur and Forbes, and obviously the pitch on it doesn't suck. And what it does is it helps people figure out how to have better pitches online. So the reason I'm here is to give some of the advice I get from the thousands of pitches I get from people, and they all suck. So I get to tell you why they suck, and maybe I can tell you why your pitches suck. And how many times can I say suck? Is anyone going to record that? Somebody? We're at 5, I think. Okay, but that's it. And I also at jimkukral.com, and I do coaching and consulting.
Hi, I'm Anita Campbell, and I run a site called Small Business Trends at smallbiztrends.com. I used to call myself a one-woman publishing empire, but now I actually have staff, so I'm no longer one woman. Actually, I not only publish information, but I do a lot of promotion myself, so I come at pitching from both sides. But I actually get pitched to probably about 20 or 30 times a day. So what makes me an expert at pitching? Well, I get all these pitches in, and so I see the good ones, I see the bad ones, and I can tell you what causes me to want to publish something on one of my websites or have somebody on my radio show or whatever it is.
Any HARO members here? My name is Peter Shankman. I run a small little website called Help a Reporter. And Help a Reporter at helpareporter.com, okay, you know what, I'll say it, this is the first time ever, is now the largest email mailing list in the world where journalists can find sources 24 hours a day.
Congratulations.
Yay, congratulations.
That felt really good. Basically, I run a website that you sign up for free, and that's the only time you ever have to use the website. I went old school, forward went out for my dead homies. Help a Reporter is nothing more than an email mailing list, text-based. Remember text? And 3 times a day, you get an email with up to 50 to 60 queries from journalists ranging from the New York Times to CNN to the Wall Street Journal to her blog. And if you know what you're talking about and can answer that reporter's query, you send them an email directly, you get famous. This site is 100% free. Free for journalists, free for sources. In my previous life, I'm one of the founders of the America Online Newsroom. Prior to that, I was a journalist. I worked for the AP. I've run several companies and had a 10-year stint running my own PR firm, and ran a small company called Air Introductions that let you choose your seatmate before you got on the airplane. Sold that Descendant. I've seen a ton of pitches, both ones that I have made that have sucked, ones that I've made that are great. And every day, I see tons of them from people on HARO who pitch, and I just sort of, if they were next to me when they sent the email, I'd just sort of look at them and go, oh, you're pretty. So maybe we can talk a little bit about how not to piss off a reporter when all you really want to do is get coverage for yourself or your client.
Okay, so all of you have seen, really good pitches and really bad pitches. So Jim, do you have any examples of something that was really good and then maybe one that was really bad?
Well, all the really bad ones are exactly the same. It's XYZ company launches new database serving program for 2.4 gigahertz, so whatever. So I'm making up this stuff, but those are the pitches I get. And every answer I give back to them is, who cares? Nobody cares. Nobody cares you launched anything. So I would say 99% of the pitches are bad like that. And they're just a waste of time for the people sending them out, and they're a waste of time for journalists like Lisa or people who are running sites like Anita. and they just get dumped right in the delete button. The good ones are the ones that solve problems for people. You know, that's what a pitch does. A good pitch has to solve a problem for either the reporter or the readers or the viewers or the listeners of the reporter. So that's how you have to go into a pitch. So I'm trying to think of a good example, but I'm just blanking at the moment. But
I have one.
you have a good example?
Yeah. Perfect case in point. You know, you walk around CES this past week, and I'm on the press list for CES. It's kind of like herpes. You can never actually get off the press list for CES once you're on it. And you know, I wasn't even at the show this year, but I got probably close to 200 emails in the past week just talking to me about what was going on for CES. And 100, and I read them because, you know, I like that kind of stuff, just to sort of shake my head and go, wow, that's sad. But 199 of them were people, you know, Company X, just like you said, I call it the painted conference room. Company XYZ repaints conference room. And then they call me and they wonder why, you know, I didn't cover it, let alone the fact that I haven't covered news in my blog in about a year and a half. So there was one pitch, though, that I really liked. It came on the second day of the show. And it was a publicist who said, hey, you know, I'm repping Company XYZ. Just, you know, I walked around the show, and one of the things that I really noticed is that people are tending to really scale back on the purchases they're making. It kind of fits with what our company's doing because they have a one charger unit that has all devices. You can plug in every device you have in your charger, and it you know, it's one unit that you can keep in your bag with you. And maybe if you're carrying a lot of stuff, it'll prevent you from having to, hi, Steve. Maybe it'll prevent you from having to, you know, carry an extra bag that you'll get charged $50 for if you have to check. And that kind of fits in with the economy and everything like that and what's going on with it. And I read that and like, that's friggin' brilliant. What did he tell me? He told me a trend that's happening at CES. He told me a trend that's going on in the world. He tied it into current events. And he happened to mention his product. It wasn't a, hey, cover me. It wasn't cover my product, I'm cool. It was, here's what's going on in the world, and here's, if you're writing a trend story, because everyone is, here's how you might be able to fit my client in. So it helped the client, it helped the reporter, and made their job easier. In the end of the day, that's your goal. You have reporters out there that come in every day with nothing. Your job is to give them something that doesn't suck.
And what about you, Anita? Good ones and bad ones?
Well, I'll give you an example of a really bad one first. This ought to not happen. People ought to know better than to do this, but plagiarizing somebody else's work and putting it in a pitch, and let me tell you, it happens. First of all, someone actually sent me a pitch that plagiarized my own work. I mean, not only was
That's awesome.
You know, I mean, that was dumb on many different levels. And I don't know whether they just didn't realize that it was a pitch where it was a company client actually saying the same things that I had said. It was 5 trends in small business that will rock your world. Well, you know, I had done that on a radio show, and it was like they actually did it word for word. More recently, this happened to a colleague of mine who had published a blog post about Barack Obama and social media and got it spit back to him almost literally word for word in a pitch email. Well, that one actually made, I think, ZDNet blog because it got a lot of talk on Twitter. And of course, it ended up with a terrible black eye for the PR agency involved because here they are immortalized on ZDNet with the copy of their email down one side and the blog post that they plagiarized it from literally almost word for word down the other side. Okay, enough said about what you shouldn't do about plagiarizing. Oh, one thing, though, will add about that. I think in each case, this was an inexperienced PR person at a firm who did this. So I would say make sure you have a discussion with young PR people if you run a PR firm, or if you are a client hiring a PR firm, don't assume that they know this or have the sense to do this. You should be able to assume it, but who knows?
You know what? I wish, though, that it was only them. I wish that we could blame it on the young. Wouldn't that be nice if it was only just the young people that were that stupid?
Well, you know, plagiarism is just a big problem in general, but that's for another discussion. Now, what's an example of a good pitch? Well, an example of a really good pitch is one that comes in and actually provides great information as a source for the press or the blogger or whomever. Now, if you want to put together a really good pitch, put a lot of information together that is more than just what Peter was talking about, more than just the, hey, I'm wonderful kind of thing. Or, we painted the conference room. Put together some information about, what's happening in the world, put together some links to additional sources that the reporter or the blogger can go to find out about that. If you have a research report, for example, include the full text of that research report, not just a press release, because they're going to want to dig into that. So give them a lot of information.
And I was going to say that anybody who's heard me speak on this topic before knows that my big thing is that you need to know who you're pitching to. And I would say that, some of you out there may have something that would be appropriate to appear in Revenue Magazine. The way that you would pitch that would probably be slightly different if you were pitching the same thing to Anita, yet it still may be appropriate for Anita. Now, so you don't want to have something that's just sort of general and goes out to everybody. I get so many things where people don't know the frequency of the magazine, they don't know who our readership is, they don't know the audience that we're trying to reach, and it ends up being inappropriate. And the truth is, if they just spun it the right way, I may have been able to realize that it was appropriate for us, but I'm not going to do all the work to figure out why it's appropriate for me.
Isn't that a key point there, the work? I mean, you're busy, right?
Well, I mean, that's one of the things, and journalists get a lot of bad rap, and, there are a lot of reasons for that and a lot of things that have happened very publicly why journalists have a bad reputation. But there are people that work really hard, but the truth of the matter is that we're all trying to feed this beast, and it never ends, especially if you're dealing with online and you're always looking for stuff. And if you help make it easier for me, I appreciate that. And not only will I likely take that into consideration when I receive a pitch from you, I'll take it into consideration down the road when I'm looking for another story on a similar topic that comes up, and I know that you delivered the information concisely, you didn't promote yourself constantly, you had a good product, you were easy to reach, and you were conscientious about what I was looking for, and I'll probably use you again.
I don't want to be the cynical bastard of the group, but I'm going to be the cynical bastard of the group. 10 years ago, when I started my first agency, I started writing one letter. I called it a good karma letter. And once a year, I'd write it to about 75,000 journalists, and I'd send it out over the course of 3 days, the first weekend in January. And it would basically say, hey, I'm not pitching you. I just know a lot of people. I'm ADD, and I don't really not know how to not talk to people. So I tend to talk to everyone. If you're on deadline, you need a source, feel free to call me. I probably know someone you know, and probably know someone you need. That led to tons of good relationships with reporters, with reporters all around the world, and it was really a precursor of what became HARO. But the reason I bring that up is because, it's a great book called Raving Fans that has nothing to do with PR. It's Raving Fans, and the concept basically states that as a society, we expect to be treated like crap. We expect to order a Diet Coke and get a Coke. We expect our dry cleaning not to be ready when they say it. Well, so if you treat your customers one level above crap, not even good, doesn't even have to be good, just one level above crap, they'll be amazed, and treat them well, and they'll become raving fans. It's the same thing with journalists. Journalists are, by nature, accustomed to getting such crap in their mailboxes that 99% of the crap they get, Kevin Dugan and Richard Larimer run a great blog called the Bad Pitch blog at badpitch.blogspot.com. And they out these pitches, and the reason that they have so much content is because people don't bother to make that 1% better. It's not a question of being so great. It's just a question of being better than everyone else. And when you're pitching, a lot of the times on HARO, more and more reporters, because they're getting so inundated, you'll pitch a reporter off a HARO query, and they'll get 500 replies in an hour. And so what they're asking for now is very, very specific ways to subject line the email. Subject line it with HARO, mothers, daughters. That's, they're doing a story on mothers, daughters, they want mother and daughters. And what I see, because on the anonymous queries, I never even touch them. They go anonymous to helpareporter@gmail.com with a specific subject line. That specific subject line is the trigger for Gmail to then forward it to the reporter. Okay, so if you screw up that subject line, the reporter's never going to see it. I'm never going to see it. It's going to go in the trash. Every once in a while, I'll go in the trash and look, and there are, for every query, 200 to 300 good, some of them are really good pitches, where the person just didn't take the time to read and say, hey, it's a specific subject line. So I would say, as great as it is to learn how to pitch and use specific industry trends and not use things that don't plagiarize, of course, just don't be stupid. Just take 5 seconds, read what the reporter wants, give it to them in under 3 paragraphs, and that's it. That's 99% of the time. That will get you in the news. That'll get you into the reporter's office, whatever it is you're looking for, because there's so much crap out there. You know, and I hate to sound so cynical, but it's true. And I haven't seen it change. I've seen it get worse.
And what about, what do you think, tell me what you think, Peter, constitutes like, when people are thinking about, you know, I'm going to start pitching people, I have something that I want to tell them, what's like the first thing that they should be thinking about?
I have a great, Abby Ellen is a reporter for the Times and other things, and she always blind copies me on when she bitches out a bad pitch. 'Cause she does that. The woman needs to get find a boyfriend, because she just spends all her time. She outs all these reporters and emails them back and says, here's why your pitch sucks, and it's good. She's teaching them. But the one thing that everything has in common is that they spend 3 to 4 paragraphs trying to get to the point. You know, I don't have 7 seconds, you know, to check my email. You can think I'm going to sit there and read. If I can't, I've seen it. If I come off a plane, I have 400 emails. If I don't know what the email is in the first 5 seconds, well, I might not delete it, but I'm going to ignore it, and maybe I'll get back to it in 2 weeks. You know, so the best pitches all have this in common: brevity and relevance. In that the first thing that they see, dear reporter, based on your HARO query of this morning, where you looked for a blank, you know, you looked for a mother and a daughter who have both dated the same man. Here's the information I have. Michelle Kennedy and her mother, Jean, dated the same man from 1994 to 2008. In the end, Michelle killed Jean. Literally, you make it so abundantly clear that there's no way they can miss it, and they can get it in under 7 seconds. Remember that whole resumes are read, the recruiters read resumes for 8 seconds, and they throw out. Reporters are less than that. 5 seconds. Get your pitch out there. Give them all the stats and facts later. If they really want it, they'll call you back. That's the one thing I didn't necessarily agree with you on, posting the whole case study or whatever it is in the email. Give them, 2 sentences. This case study revealed that the top cause of mothers killing daughters are after they date their ex-boyfriends. I have all the data to back that up. I'm happy to give it to you. Just let me know. And no attachments. If you include attachments, you'll never get in. Gmail strips attachments and deletes them immediately because reporters don't want them anymore. And you're smarter than that. You can, if it's ultra important, they see a photo, send them a link.
And what about you, Anita? What do you think people should do when they're first starting out and they're thinking about pitching something? What should be on their mind?
Well, in addition to having a specific story, let me ask you this, show of hands. How many of you are interested in pitching bloggers or online communities? Any of that? Okay, good. We've got a fair number of hands there. And that's a good place to start. If you are just starting out, you might find it easier to get into blogs, and so you might want to start pitching some of the bloggers who write the blogs that are in your space, that get the kind of audience that you want to have. Now, to get attention from a blogger, I think is a little different than a journalist or media. You're going to have to show much more of a personal connection. So one good way to do this is go to the blog and start leaving comments on the blog. Actually get involved in that community. And then when you send an email to that blogger, they're going to recognize who you are. And then you've already got the door open a little ways. So that's what I recommend people just starting out is start with blogs. They're easier to get into. Make sure you have a personal connection. Then once you've done that, a lot of reporters actually read blogs, so very often something will be covered first in blogs, and then a reporter will see it, and then they'll contact you after that point. So you might want to think about that as a progression for getting the kind of attention that you want.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the media people, we all know each other. We all follow each other. We all know what each other are doing and writing. And, I don't want to say that it's a pack mentality, but the other thing is that if I'm going to do a story on something that I've never written about before, I'm going to go online and I'm going to do some searching. I'm going to look on Google and I'm going to say, who's been quoted before? Well, if you got quoted in a blog or something was written about you, it's indexed in Google, I'm going to see it there. And if I see your name appear 3 times, I'm going to say, wow, this guy must be an expert at this particular topic. And so I'm more likely to give you a call because it's right in front of me instead of sorting through all these other things. It's sitting right in front of me to call you.
Just Jim.
Well, no, I mean, I think the point, and Lisa and I, we've talked about this before, and you said this, is you're more likely to write about somebody if they've built a relationship with you ahead of time, and that relationship wasn't sending a press release. It was introducing and actually becoming sort of friends. And it's along the lines of what Anita said, leaving comments on a blogger's blog so they can kind of see your name. I mean, whenever you leave a comment, the owner gets the email, and that comes in. They may get 500, but if you leave a lot of comments, eventually they're going to be like, wow, that Jim guy keeps commenting on the blog. And they're going to remember that.
He must be a
And then,
stalker.
yeah, it's stalker. And then, and then I send them another email, and they keep deleting, and then they block me. But you have to build the relationship with the person. I don't care if it's a blogger or a journalist. And, you know, I'm in Cleveland, Ohio, and I do local publicity stunts to just see if I can get media in town because I just like to do it. It's fun for me. And I develop relationships with the reporters from the TV stations, the producers, the reporters at the Cleveland Plain Dealer. And, you know, I know those people, and I will send them stuff from time to time, and they are more likely to take my calls and to promote the things that I'm putting out there because of that.
Give a comment on that. Actually, one of the greatest things in the world. Everyone loves to know that people like their stuff. I'm looking at updates. Where's A. Swars, who's in the audience?
Right here.
Right there. She just repeated something I said on Twitter. She said, Skydiver recommends this book. Okay, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, cool, someone thinks I'm worth it. You know, that's something that, you know, reporters love that. I will, if I find an interesting story in the Times, be like, you know, subject, so-and-so thinks that da-da-da-da, see story in Times by, and I'll find their Twitter name. There's a wonderful wiki, remind me, and I'll get it to you guys if you want it. I posted on HARO a couple weeks ago, a wiki with over like 700 reporters' Twitter names that you can go and you know, follow these guys. Find out what they're writing about. If they write something you agree with, send a shout out. You know, shout out with an @ at Abby Ellen wrote a great piece on whatever. At Steve Hall, you know, wrote a great piece on whatever. And that's the thing. It's never been easier to get in touch with these reporters and communicate and not look like you're stalking. You know, hey, I found that piece really interesting that blank at reporter name wrote a couple days ago, and then use that, tie that in a few weeks later. If you have an actual pitch that ties into what they wrote a month ago or 2 months ago, hey, you know, I gave you a shout out on Twitter a couple months ago when you wrote this piece on blah, blah, blah. I have a client that I just signed who I think might actually fit in that category if you're ever doing a follow-up on it. You know, thanks again. Keep writing great stuff. All the best, Peter. You're not saying, please cover me, you know, write about me, write about me, write about me. You're helping them. I mean, at the end of the day, that's what it is. You have to help them.
Yeah, I mean, the relationship thing, I think everybody here at Affiliate Summit knows that, you know, the affiliate marketing space is all about relationships and creating relationships. And it really is the same with journalists. I mean, we're people, and I don't like personally to be interacted with on a basis where, you know, it's just sort of like, you have this media vehicle and here's what you can do for me, and this is going to help me if you cover me. And my answer to that is, I'm not your PR firm, so I don't care. You know, so I'm much more likely to be open to people that I meet at one of these events that has a conversation with me, that tells me something personal about themselves, that develops a relationship that, you know, like Peter said, that is complimentary of things. You know, we all have egos, you know, that's complimentary of things that you've done and that wants to help you. And I think that part of that is presenting yourself, I think, as an expert as opposed to just pitching your company. And Peter's been saying that all along. You know, it's like, I might be able to help you if you're writing a trend story, not write about my company.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to add something also about relationships. Here's a little trick. If you are pitching someone and you have a blog of your own, it helps if you write on your blog about, let's say, a reporter that you're interested in, write about one of their stories. One of the things I also did early on was when I wrote about them, I used the reporter's name. And many reporters get Gmail alerts, Google alerts. And so whenever you use the reporter's name, that's going to show up. Another thing that I would do is I would also put the reporter's name in the link for when I linked to that story. That was another way of getting their attention. So these are really important things to do because, as Peter was saying, everybody likes to see their name in lights. They like to know that people like them. So if you use their name and reinforce it, that's important. Another thing is if you have a client or if you get covered by the media, make sure that you write about that on a blog, okay, and link to that story. Why? A lot of the reporters now get compensated, or when it comes time to decide who stays and who goes in times when newspapers are cutting staff, one of the things that they look at is how many page views and how many links does that reporter's articles get. So the more traffic you can drive back to that article, now you've created some good karma, some good feeling with that reporter that they're really going to like, and they will remember that.
Take it. Go ahead.
The shotgun approach, I don't think works anymore. I mean, maybe Peter will tell you differently, but for me, it doesn't work for the customers that I've dealt with. If you have someone specific, if it's David Pogue, is the New York Times tech reporter, is that the guy? I mean, do what Anita said and include him in a blog post or something and then contact him that way. I've contacted billionaires and gotten their attention by a website or a blog post. I've targeted blog posts at one specific person, and maybe it wasn't a journalist, but I wrote it specifically just so I knew I would get their eyeballs on it.
Now they're dating.
And they did read it. And they did read it, and they came to it, and they eventually saw it, and they knew who I was at that point. I had won that first step in the game, and over time, I've built relationships with people that way. It's a little tricky, but come on. I mean, that's what we're trying to do here. We're trying to get publicity, right?
I'll also add to that. Jim's 100% right. If you are, 3 times a day when you send out 50,000 emails 3 times a day, everyone thinks they're your friend, and they all feel like they can respond to you. But the thing is, I respond back. And, there's nothing worse than pitching a reporter with an idea and having them get back to you and then you not responding, or you giving them bad information or something like that. I think that again, what it really comes down to is you're trying to make their job easier. And anything that makes them feel like a little more of a rock star in an industry that is decimating them left and right. I mean, how many friends I have who have been laid off, journalists who are now freelance. NewspaperDeathWatch.com will give you the current scoop. There was a story out in Salon last week that's predicting the end of the Times by mid-09. The New York friggin' Times, They're leveraging, they just leveraged, they just got loans to leverage against the new building. It's not good. And so anything you can do to help them get through their day, whether it's give them some props in an article you're writing or give them a trend that they can then write a story about or, even making introductions. Dear Mr. Reporter, we worked together in the past. I know you cover this a lot. I'm not trying to pitch you. I just think you should know my friend, Dr. Martin. Dr. Martin does all that research in biophysics, and I know that you're a big biophysics reporter and you write about that a lot. I'm sure he could help you one day if you really, it helps Dr. Martin out. It helps the reporter out. No pun intended. Everyone wins. So, I mean, think about that as well in that people like dealing with people who help them. And people are much happier to give you press, give you coverage, give you things you want when the karma flows. And I know it sounds really cheesy, but I've been saying that since day one, is that they will always be in your benefit to help them out first, and will come back to you.
And the other thing is give somebody a tip about something that may seem juicy or something, and it seems like an insider tip, because if you call a reporter or you send something and you say, hey, I heard this about, Microsoft and they're going to be doing this, and you're not pitching your own company, I'm going to look at that and think, I don't know that person, but, I'm kind of interested in following up on this. I'll check it out. And then suddenly, in my eyes, my only interaction with you is you're an insider and you know what you're talking about. Yep. And so now you've positioned yourself with me as above everybody else because you have inside information. So I'm going to go back to you hoping that you have other information. Then I'm going to be more susceptible to whatever it is you have to say to me because now we're creating a relationship.
FYI, Steve Jobs is losing weight is not an insider tip anymore, just so we all know.
Now, you guys have, Jim, you talked about doing some outrageous things. So what are some of the most outrageous things that you've been able to do to capture attention when you're doing a pitch?
Let's see. I've done some really fun stuff. One of the things I did was I wanted to see if I could get on the news in a local news station one day. It was about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I said, I wonder how I can get on the news. Let's see if I can do it. So I came up with a site. I registered a domain name called fanprotest.com. The Browns game, I'm from Cleveland, pity me. The Browns game was that weekend. Bad sports
I am
team,
too. So.
So, and it was New Year's Eve, and I said, no one's going to go to this game. I said, you should protest this game and not go to this game. I built a little website, one-page website, put up a video of myself saying, I'm not going to the game, and you shouldn't go to the game too. Took me an hour, right? $7.99 domain name. Sent it out to three producers at the 3 local TV radio stations. Did some work for about another hour and a half. Went home. Walked in the door. My wife says, Channel 3's on the phone. They want to know if they can do a story about your fan protest thing. And I said, okay. And I got on the phone with the guy, and he's like, okay, when do you want to do it? He goes, well, can we come right now? So 45 minutes later, I have a news crew from one of the big 3 networks sitting in my living room doing a story about me. And it was just because I had this idea. So it was timely. It was, it might have been a slow news day. I'll give you that, but
Definitely was a slow news day.
yeah, but it's Cleveland. So, but I've had other ones too where I've tried to do similar things, and it was not a slow news day, and nobody cared. So, but I mean, you can get attention. You just kind of have to be a little bit different. I mean, they get so many pitches of everything that's the same. If you do something that's a little bit outrageous or a little bit different, and somebody may look at it, these producers sitting in the newsrooms may go, wow, that is kind of interesting. One of those things we can throw at the end
You
of
need
the
to
news.
fill 45 seconds.
Yeah.
But the other thing you brought up a good point is timing. Don't send your press release out or your pitch to somebody, 5 minutes before their deadline. Or if they're a monthly magazine, don't send it when they go to the printer on the 19th. Don't send it on the 18th because they probably wrote the stories a month and a half ago. Don't call people, know when people's deadlines are, and, don't send something out the day before Christmas. Nobody's going to care. Nobody's going to pay attention.
Unless the news
Right.
is so dead that day that they need filler. It's actually, it's funny because the one that is the one, I wrote one book in my life, Wiley published it. It's called Outrageous PR Stunts and Why Your Company Needs Them. It's called Can We Do That? And the whole concept is that sometimes December 24th is the best coverage you're going to get. Because either way, there's still news, there's still newspapers
Right,
coming
but
out.
if you're pitching a TV station, it may be slow. But if you're pitching me, I'm gone on vacation.
Well, yeah, 'cause you're a blogger.
Again, it's like
sure, if you're
know
pitching a blogger,
who
chances
you're
are
pitching.
they're going on vacation. And by vacation, I mean they're not writing. But yeah, I mean, if the New York Times is still going to publish,
Right.
and CNN is still going to report. I would give you just another example of what Jim said. There was use social media to your advantage. 6 months ago, or 8 months ago now, I guess, Harris Hotels was a client, and we were doing some work for them, and they have 4 agencies and me. They have 4 massive PR travel agencies, and then they have me, just this random guy. And we all met. There's 5 of us, 4 agencies plus me, and we all met to determine how to open their new hotel in Atlantic City. And the 4 agencies came in with charts and graphs and implements of destruction and everything, and we're going to issue 12 press releases, 1 each day, and we're going to do this. And I said, I'm going to put it on Twitter. And none of them said anything about social media. I mean, these are 4 agencies. They're probably paying $50,000 a piece to each agency. They were paying me in the free buffet. And I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna put it on Twitter, and I'm gonna blog it. And by the way, I'm gonna blog this meeting. And whether you agree to the stunt that I'm gonna suggest or not, I'm still gonna blog about it. And to Harris' credit, they heard me out. The other 4 agencies were all bitchy, and they're like, no, what does he know? This isn't real PR. And so what we did was I suggested that we put we take 4 models. Paint them in Harris logos as body paint on their naked bodies, and then put them onto Wall Street and give away the hotel room. So we gave away the entire hotel for the night. And they said, well, fine. And the other agency's like, okay, well, we'll get on board with that just because Harris likes, well, we'll issue a release. I'm like, no, don't issue press releases. I've already blogged this. As a matter of fact, I just blogged you saying that you want to issue a press release on it. Too bad. And so what we wound up doing was we didn't issue one press release on it. We didn't post anything. What we wound up doing was I started Twittering about it, and I started blogging about it. By 5 a.m. that day, okay, I had over 1,400 people who were linking to the RSS feed to see where the hot naked models were going to be. When I announced it around 4:30 in the morning on my Twitter feed at Skydiver that, hey, we have the models are in the hotel, they're getting painted, we're going to be on Wall Street by 10 a.m. Someone actually, when I said at 9 a.m., hey, we're just about done with the models, we're painting them, someone who actually worked on Wall Street took that tweet and put it on the NICE stock exchange. They put it on the NYSE board. So 14,000 oversexed male traders You know, and I actually did the research on it. Unfortunately, you can't track the market second by second in terms of volume. You can only do it minute by minute. I was kind of curious to see if there was at 10:01 if the volume actually went down, because by the time the models got, what happens when you do a stunt? You have to issue a press release and hope that people show up. The models came out of a limo. We got out of a limo on Wall Street and Broadway, and we had 700 guys in suits with camera phones. Okay, and the models got there and they got mobbed, and as soon as they got mobbed, what'd they get mobbed by? 700 guys with camera phones who did what? Posted it on blogs and sent it to websites and posted online. They did the PR for us. That's another thing that you should be doing. Get your clients, your customers, your friends to be doing your PR for you. In a perfect world, your end result, you have a job to do. It's not PR. Your job is to make money or make your clients money or sell a product. If you should be so good at what you're doing that your clients and employees and whoever are doing your PR for you, that's when you know you're doing really, really great PR. Will It Blend? Actually, Ad Rants did a huge piece on the Harro's event after it ran, which got Harro's another couple of ton sales. So it's like that's what you really want to be doing. Focus on that as well. And you know, you might start out on a really slow news day, but if you're doing an event, we just did it on a random Thursday. And we built up the momentum using social media. Never forget that, you know, the concept of one newspaper is dying. And the concept of one media outlet is dying. And the average human being is seeing 17,000 sources a day. 17,000 bits of information a day. You have to make yours memorable. Sorry for taking up 4 minutes there.
No, that's okay. I was just going to say, but what about the folks in here who say, okay, I'm not sure about social media, whether I should be using just Twitter or should I be using Facebook? What about MySpace? I mean, are you recommending that people are like on everything, or they just pick one particular thing?
There is no, social media does not exist. Let's go on record and say that. What does exist is the ability to screw up a lot faster to a much broader range of people in a much shorter amount of time. That's all that exists. So what happens is before you start going and posting on social, how many of you are on Twitter? Hand raise. Okay, now watch this. How many of you are on LinkedIn? Everyone raise their hand. Now, if you're on LinkedIn but not on Facebook, raise your hand. Okay, good. It's nice to see an advanced room. I go and talk to Fortune 500 CEOs. Everyone raise their hand. We're all on LinkedIn. How many are on Facebook? Oh no, Facebook is for kids. How many of you have gotten business on LinkedIn? Crickets. You know, a couple of. So the concept is don't just rely on one thing. Get good at things. You know, there are reporters. Brian Morrissey from Ad Age is on LinkedIn and on Twitter and on Facebook on a regular basis, and he'll only take pictures now via Twitter. And I love that, because if you can't pitch your client or yourself in 140 characters, you need to work on your brevity anyway. So think about that. Think about where are the reporters hanging out, where's the information. Everyone has a camera phone now. You know, back in 2002, I was quoted by the AP as saying the next Rodney King is going to happen on a camera phone. And we were right. Everything from Michael Richards to the London subway bombings. You have 242 million citizen journalists out there waiting to get on CNN. 60% of the information for the 2008 elections, other than election night, was reported by citizen journalists for CNN. Think about that. 60% of the content that CNN posted the previous year before the election was done by people who weren't getting paid by CNN. They just wanted to see their photo on TV. Use these guys. Use citizen journalism. Use the whatever social media is. Twitter, Facebook. Use it. Just don't be stupid about it. Talk to me later after that. I won't waste time, but I'll tell you about that, how not to be stupid about it later.
Jim, you're really into video, and recently when you decided that you were going to sort of take your business and expand it and do some other things, you decided to do a video launch. You got everybody to come and to, was it Ustream?
Yeah.
And why don't you talk a little bit about using video to sort of get your message out there and get your pitch out there?
Well, I mean, we're an affiliate marketing crowd here, so I mean, we all know, launching is really a successful way to get your information out there quickly and to get a lot of people talking about it. And use the combination of a launch with video and social media and Twitter and to spread that message around. And Gary Vee's the master at this. I mean, he'll talk about this tomorrow. But he'll go on, he's probably in his hotel room right now sitting there going, I'm live on Ustream. I just got out of the shower and, people come and watch me. But he always says, will you tweet this out? Or will you do this? And people do. So I did a launch for my new coaching thing, and I did it live on Ustream. And sure, I only got like 200 people at most in the room. But it was 200 customers. It was 200 friends and associates, and it was people who were interested in what I was doing. And they all sent it out to all their friends, and they said that, and I think the main point to say is it's still so new. There's not a lot of people doing this type of stuff, and everyone here, a small business, has an opportunity to do this type of stuff. You have customers who are interested in what you're doing. One of the guys that's here is John Fisher from StickerGiant.com. He makes great stickers, and he does these great videos about every time he makes a sticker, he does a video about the sticker. And he does these little videos, and he puts them up on his blog. You know, I mean, that's great stuff. That shows his product. So you should be trying live streams. You should be videotaping yourself, videotaping your products, putting it live online, and let people interact with it.
What about you, Anita? Or any particular social media tips you have for people?
Well, since I deal with the small business space, I try to stay pretty close to, where I think small businesses and a small business audience is online. And you really have the triumvirate. It really is LinkedIn, Facebook, and Twitter. And Twitter is growing at a faster pace, way faster than anything I have ever seen. I mean, I'm just stunned by the growth in Twitter. So, it definitely needs to be the place where you are. There are also a lot of niche social sites, and so depending on the industry you're in, you might want to explore those, for vertical industries and so on. Now, here's a tip if you want to reach, for example, reporters of Business Week. For example, Business Week has kicked off its own little social media thing called the Business Exchange. And when you go to the Business Week site, if you look up, last time I checked, it was like up in the right-hand corner underneath the header, you'll see like a little in-house ad for the Business Exchange. Well, the Business Exchange lets you go and bookmark pieces of content. Well, guess who else is on the Business Exchange and who is very active? It's all the reporters and editors from Business Week. So if you're out there and you're bookmarking their content and you're following the channels that they either sponsor or put together or whatever, you're eventually going to become known by them. So it's a good way to get involved with those editors. And I know there are other publications out there that have their own kind of in-house social media. So if you follow a particular publication, look and see if they've got any kind of a social media vehicle in any way attached to it. And you should be part of that. It's a way to get in touch with people. I would also say that, you need to think in terms of building communities around these social media. So, for example, you have a Facebook page and then set up a page for your company as well, and set up a group. And make sure that you're updating those things and invite people, and actually use those. But you'll have people who like Facebook, but don't necessarily like Twitter, for example. Yes, there really are people like that, and you'll see them, and they go around, and they actually will go to different pages and leave messages. And if you have your Twitter stream updating your Facebook page, all you have to do then is update Twitter, and it automatically is updating Facebook. You don't have to do extra work in that way. But I like to think of it in terms of, really creating a separate community around all of these, and then you have your own home base, which is your own blog, which you really need too, and you have your own community around that as well. And yes, these communities, they do overlap a little bit. Think of circles, that there's some overlap, but you'll also find that they're really different. But you want to have as many communities online as you can today. You want to reach out to people wherever they are, whatever vehicle they find that they like to use. Go to them.
A couple of quick points. I agree with that entirely. The press release, I've gone on record and said this before, so feel free to quote me. Within 24 to 36 months, the press release will be dead. You will no longer be sending out press releases on behalf of your clients unless they're publicly traded companies where by law you have to. What you will be doing is offering the information whatever way their customers, their clients, your clients want it, whether that's via Twitter, whether that's via video, whether that's via a Facebook update or a podcast. Whatever it is, you better damn well be sure that you're getting that information to them. And that really comes down to relevance, how you get that information to them. Relevance, brevity, and transparency are going to be the three keys. What I would say also, there are way too many people running around claiming themselves to be social media geniuses today. Be really careful who you listen to as well. The thing that I always find amazing about Twitter is that I get people all the time going, how'd you get all these followers? I have something like 21,000 followers on Twitter. But with that comes an enormous responsibility in that I don't tweet stupid crap. I divide Twitter up into two segments, and this is probably gonna be helpful because think about it this way. There's yogurt Twitter, and then there's information Twitter. What is yogurt Twitter? Yogurt Twitter is just bought a yogurt. It does nothing for me. I don't care. Information Twitter is just bought a yogurt at the new Pinkberry on 42nd and 9th, which just opened, so they're giving away yogurt for 75% off to celebrate. That's information. That's valuable to me. Someone came to me the other day and said, the Florida Aquarium, really great aquarium in Florida. You should follow them on Twitter. They're at Florida Aquarium. Why should you follow them? Because when they came to me, they said, hey, we have 20 people on Twitter. We don't know how to get followers. I said, well, what are you tweeting? Well, our hours. If if an exhibit's closed for the day. Our address. So I beat him over the head with his phone. But then I said that, there's what you're not doing is you're missing out on a perfect opportunity. You're an aquarium. People who like aquariums tend to be, they're probably fact geeks. They love facts. They love information. Give out a sea fact, an ocean fact once a day. Something interesting about the oceans. The manatee is the longest creature in the world to look like Sybil Shepherd, whatever it might be. Give out information that people, that's kind of cool to read. BBC is brilliant at that. The BBC, all of their Twitter, all their websites, they give out tons of information. They now have like thousands of followers because they give out this information. But again, as you start to build your Twitter stream, be very aware that Twitter is the #1 most self-policing action on the internet. If you're stupid once, people will dump you. All it takes is typing in off your username and they're gone. And they will never come back to you. So be very aware of the kind of stuff you're saying. If you're giving out information in your company, don't type up the first 5 lines of a press release and put it on Twitter, but rather say, hey, for all my, who's great? Follow Hardee's restaurants. Every day they do a different Hardee's. Hey, Tennessee, walk into a Hardee's, show this tweet, get a free burger. They do this every day, and they're brilliant at that. So, use it to your advantage. Don't use it just to spew out the same crap that you're spewing out in your press releases. Use it to engage your audience. Because that, and by engaging your audience, you can also engage reporters. Reporters are just as much on Twitter as common men and women.
Anything else from you guys? 'Cause
I'd like to hear more about how do you find reporters on Twitter? I mean, is there a place you can know?
Yeah, there's a huge wiki. That I'll remember that I posted it on HARO a couple of weeks ago. I'll find it. If you shoot me an email, or it's peter@shankman.com, or find me later, or whatever, or at me at @skydiver, I'll get you the wiki. There is a wiki for that. As a matter of fact, that's one of the things I can use to my legion of 21,000 Army Twitterers people. I'll post it right now, and I'll have the answer for you probably in about a minute and a half. There's also Ask Reporters. If you Google a reporter's name, quote, reporter's name, unquote, +, Twitter. Chances are, if they're on Twitter, their name is going to come right up. Also, go to search.twitter.com. Search.twitter.com, by the way, is the replacement for focus groups. The one thing that Twitter has done is eliminated the need to spend $1,000 on a focus group. PR firm, I was teaching them about social media and how to use Twitter, and they said, we don't believe in it. And I said, okay, give me a client name that you have. And they gave me Rubik's Revolution. I typed in Rubik's Revolution, and there was Harold's mom, 284, who just the day before had posted, just got Rubik's Revolution for Harold, haven't heard from him in 24 hours, this thing is magic, I can sleep. If I'm the PR firm, I am having a wet dream over that because I'm jumping onto Twitter and going, Harold's mom 24, thank you so much for the kind words, getting her email address saying, thank you so much for the kind words. We represent the, Rubik's Revolution. Would love to send you a t-shirt, would love to send you a hat, just so thank you so much for that. By the way, does your husband make a lot of noise when we'll send him one too? Whatever the case may be. What happens then? That Harold's mom, what is she? She has maybe 250 followers. Who are they? Are they construction workers? No, chances are they're other moms. We covet what we know, Hannibal Lecter. Okay? Chances are that they're other moms. So she's going to go, oh my God, Rubik's Revolution just emailed me. They're sending me free stuff. How cool. I love my... Boom, 250 new fans. Okay? Easiest thing in the world. We are a society that when something bad happens, last time we had a bad flight, first thing we did when we got off the plane, picked up our cell phone and called everyone we know. We're never happy when we're miserable until we make all our friends miserable. On the same note, we're never happy when we're happy until we've rubbed it in other people's faces. That's just who we are as a society. Twitter lets you do that. So if you're communicating with these reporters, you're getting great response on Twitter. There's some immediate feedback. And you can always follow that stuff up.
So I'm going to let you guys get the last word in that you wanted, and then we wanted to leave plenty of time in case you guys had questions. We've got a microphone set up over there. So any final words from you, Anita, about the ultimate pitch?
Well, the ultimate pitch, actually, if you're having trouble getting coverage and you want it, the main thing that you can do is basically set up a blog and start publishing yourself. Now, there's a gentleman by the name of David Meerman Scott. The New Rules for PR, I think, was the name of the book he did. You know, he started out by actually publishing that online, and he used his blog to do that. And before you knew it, he had a book deal, and then this book is, you know, sold, I don't know how many, you know, hundreds of thousands of copies. But that was after it was downloaded so many times. And the point is here to publish yourself. Okay, if you've got a press release, make sure you're putting it on a blog, for example. You know, publish your news wherever you can on all these vehicles, these social media vehicles. Now, don't do that exclusively, don't sound dumb, but there is a place to get out there and get that kind of news. And really, that's how I started, was just publishing stuff. And I just held myself out as somebody who knew something, and I published it. And when people had research that they couldn't get a reporter to cover, they would send it to me, and I would report about it. And the next thing you know, they're being covered in Inc. magazine or the New York Times or whatever. But you know what that did for me? That really created a bond with those people, because I gave them that first chance to be out there. But I started just publishing, and that's what I would say. If you can't get it any other way, do it yourselves, and then it'll grow.
Jim?
So there's a great book called Marketing Outrageously by John Spolestra. It's one of my favorite books of all time. Please read it. John basically is a sports marketer who did lots of really amazing things. And his philosophy was, when I come up with an idea, I know if it's good or if it's junk. I walk into a room of people and I say, I tell them the idea, and if half the room goes, and the other half laughs their ass off, he goes, I know it's a great idea. He says, if nobody says a word, he goes, I throw it right into the trash can. So when I went to go create Your Pitch Sucks, I registered fixyourpitch.com and PR Pitch Now and a whole bunch of other domain names. And I was going to launch it under something else because I'm like, man, Your Pitch Sucks sounds kind of a little bit too much, right? And I kicked myself in the head. I'm like, what are you doing? You're writing a thing about pitching. So if I would have called it PR Pitch Now or Fix Your Pitch, do you think I would have gotten in Inc.? Do you think I would have gotten in Entrepreneur? Do you think I would have gotten in Forbes? And I did no publicity. I sent out one simple press release, and it's just spread because of the name. So do something a little bit outrageous. Get out of your comfort zone. Think in that mentality, because it does work.
I'm waiting to get. I tweeted asking for the name of the wiki.
You've already got it.
It's up there already?
It's been up here
It's not
already.
Sarah. It's not PR Sarah. There it is. Yeah, cool. Yeah. All right, sweet. twitteringjournalist.pbwiki.com. There you go. That'll list all the journalists. I love that. Haha, the power. Look, what I would say is we're not curing cancer here. Okay, what we're doing is we're trying to get coverage, and it is very possible that we're overthinking all this crap. You know, in the end result, reporters have to fill this much space per day, all right? This much celluloid, this much HD. Have something interesting to say. Have something relevant to say. Don't waste their time with it. The biggest bit of information or tip I can give you, if ever, is read what the reporter's writing before you start emailing them. Be very specific in what you want to say. If the pitch can be in the subject line, that's great. That means you're being brief and working on your brevity. You know, pitch. XYZ is doing this as a trend we're seeing. Done. 5 lines about why it's interesting. Send. Reporters will get it if it is. Obviously, the best bit of information I can give you, and I hate to be self-promoting, join HARO. You get 120 reporters, 120 to 160 pitches per day. You'll quickly see what reporters are looking for, and it's a great way to learn what reporters write about. If you get 160 reporters doing stories every day, you'll quickly learn, oh, wow, this reporter covers this. I should pitch them one day if I ever have something interesting on that. So, but most importantly, just don't, this is how I'll end it. Don't think that you're in a fight with them. Reporters and journalists need each other. They'll never admit it, but reporters need journalists. Reporters need sources. Sources need reporters. And in the end, I think everyone really kind of does want to be friends. You know, there's just been this war because there are stupid people out there doing stupid pitches, and there are stupid journalists out there too. So most importantly, just have fun with it. That's all I got.
Well, thank you very much. And now we have a microphone over there, and you guys are welcome, because we are video and audio taping it, so I want to make sure people go to the mic so we can hear.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
So I have a question about when to ask for contracts. So right before Thanksgiving, I had a production company from Toronto contact me because they wanted information from my network. And they were writing a TV show for the lifestyle in the W network. And they wanted a pretty quick turnaround of information for a TV show, and I did a lot of work for them pretty quickly. And they wanted me to put ad space on my blog, and they wanted me to do a lot of research and connect them with a lot of six-figure moms for a TV show. And I did that, and I did a lot of research for them, and I kept asking them where things were going. And finally, after about 5 phone calls, I said, I think we're at the point where we need to talk about a contract, because I'd done a lot of work and written a lot of work. And my question to you guys is, what's appropriate when you're doing that kind of work for a production company? Because the path was, I was writing content for them, which they were writing for the TV networks. I mean, yes, the TV networks.
I feel like I'm going to have to let somebody else handle this because I've never run
Yeah,
into
that's not
this.
me.
This is,
Yeah,
I've
not
never
really
run into
understand the
anything
question
like
in relation to PR, really.
So I guess I felt like they were pitching me for information, and it was a lot of work for free for the story.
I'll just say, I mean, I don't necessarily know your specifics, but I will just say that, you know, a lot of what you're doing, if you want your coverage, you know, there is some work for free, but only you can tell when it's too much and when it becomes like more work than is worth for the story.
I'll tell you this, in the experiences I've had doing things like that over the last 15 years, I would say maybe 1% of the time it actually worked out. When people are offering you exchange stuff like that, it's usually they're just looking to get free stuff from you. I would just be careful. Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
Anybody else with a question?
We were that good.
I can't believe it.
Come on.
Impossible. Really?
Nobody wants to even stand up, tell us what your company is.
We won't make fun of you.
Famous,
pitch
All right,
us
if someone
right
has a
here in
question,
front of a
I'll
whole
pimp you
room
out
of
on Twitter.
people? Come on.
the famous Peter Shankman is here.
Oh, shut up.
We are bowing in his presence.
We have somebody at the mic, so if you'd like to go to the mic, sir, after
go to the
her.
mic.
Yeah, you have to go to the
You
mic.
have to go to the microphone, sir. We're going to let her go.
We've got one.
You want to continue?
Go ahead. No,
No,
please.
blue shirt, speak.
Let's hear your pitch. Go.
No pressure.
You want to hear my pitch? Really?
No.
No.
What's your question?
What's your question?
What's a pitch?
The question is, we're flying around the world on the Global Hug Tour. The question is, we've got the experts here. What is the best way that you would recommend that we pitch this in a way that can help the greatest amount of people?
Video.
Okay.
You've told me what you're doing, and I know what you're doing. Tell me, Jim, I want your take on this. I know what you're doing, so I already think it's cool. But it's the kind of thing that if you send to a reporter, they're gonna be like, oh yeah, they're full of it. That sounds great, but yeah, give me a break. They're not really gonna do it. Get video of you hugging someone in sub-Saharan Africa. Send it.
But my question is, why do you not have any branding like on yourself? Why are you not hugging people here? Why?
To her credit, she did hug me when I walked in.
Okay, because I was going to say that, you know,
The main reason for the answer for that is the site does not launch until the 20th of this month.
But
So
you've got a
this is the
room full of people
pre-launch.
here that are blogging and that are on Twitter, and
True.
Point.
you know,
True.
and they probably on the 20th of the month would have all been willing to tell people about it, and it's sort of such a good feeling and good karma kind of thing.
Good point, thank you.
Yeah.
Anything else? Anything else?
Yeah,
Let's
okay,
Start
we'll give-
hugging.
We'll give you a free pass.
it out.
What's the website going to be on the 20th?
GlobalHugTour.com. It's there now. Basically, in a nutshell, in a sentence, 2 people in a single-engine prop plane flying 31,000 miles around the world, stopping in 50 different countries. In each of those countries, we're jumping out of that airplane and doing 3 things. Gathering inspiration from the greatest luminaries in that area. We're also hugging 2,000 people per stop for a total of wrapping the
Okay.
world in 100,000 hugs. And we're also distributing over $1 million of abundance, and where that comes from.
But you know what? I would have been more receptive to that information if, like, I was getting it while I was getting a hug. So,
Okay, you're on.
I'm Shubhankar Ray. I'm from A
hug it
After.
out after. We got a question out here from this guy.
Hug it out.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, when do you know that you are spending too much time on Twitter? That's my first question. And my second
I
question.
quit anytime I want.
And my second one is, are there any other sites they are like Twitter? You know, I just don't want to put all my time there. If there is anything else that you can try.
If you're doing your job right, you're not spending all your time on Twitter. Twitter works on the BlackBerry. Twitter works on your iPhone. You want to be twittering things that are interesting to the people who follow you. And I don't know what you do. I don't know who those are. So you want to be twittering interesting things. My rule is, unless they're journalist queries, that doesn't count. I don't count them in the Twitter. 3 a day. 3 a day. And there are people like Chris Brogan who will send out 20 a day, and people take it. Because, he's preaching gospel, and it's good stuff. I don't think that the stuff I'm pitching is that important that 21,000 people need to hear from me about what I'm doing more than 3 times a day. But that being said, it really depends on your audience. If your kids are hungry and they look like they're losing weight or something, maybe you're spending too much time on Twitter.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Twitter name @RaceDrive. Question, HARO, could you give the domain name or how you spell it?
Yeah, it's helpareporter.com. It's ridiculously simple.
That is the HARO group?
HARO stands for Help a Reporter Out. So yeah, it's helpareporter.com or helpareporterout.com.
Thank you.
Well,
Anybody else with a question? Okay, well, thank you very much for attending. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank
Enjoy
you.
the show.
ladies and gentlemen.